The fever was burning little Sarah up from the inside out. The doctors in town had said there was nothing more to do. Samuel stood in the rain, looking at the dark farmhouse. He knew he shouldn't be here. He knew what the bishop said about Miriam Yoder. They called her the herb woman. Some whispered worse. But as lightning flashed, illuminating the desperate fear in his eyes, Samuel raised his fist and knocked on the heavy oak door. He didn't care about the rules anymore. He only cared about saving his daughter, and Miriam was his last hope. The wind howled through the gaps in the old barn. It was late October in Lancaster County. The leaves had already turned to fire and gold. Miriam Yoder stood by her kitchen window. She was watching the storm roll in over the fields. She held a bundle of dried sage in her hands. The scent was strong, earthy, and sharp. It smelled like safety to her. Miriam was 26 years old and unmarried. In the Amish world, that made her an old maid, but Miriam did not feel lonely mostly. She had her garden, her herbs, and her work. People came to her when the doctors failed. They came for her teas and her salves. They came for the poultices that drew out infection. "Miriam, come away from the window," her mother called. Mum was sitting in her rocking chair, knitting. "The lightning is dangerous tonight." Miriam nodded and turned back to the warm stove. The kerosene lamp flickered, casting long shadows. "Did you hear, Mom?" asked softly, needles clicking. "Samuel Fisher has returned to the district." Miriam felt her heart skip a single beat. Samuel Fisher. The name brought back memories. He had left 5 years ago, angry and rebellious. "He is back?" Miriam asked, keeping her voice even. "Yes, he bought the old Miller farm down the road." Mom paused, looking at Miriam over her glasses. "He brought a child with him." "A little girl and his wife?" Miriam asked, dreading the answer. "Passed away last winter in Ohio." Miriam looked down at the floorboards. She remembered Samuel as a wild youth, used to tease her about her weed garden. But he had also been the only one to defend her. When the boys called her a witch, Samuel fought them. He had come home with a bloody nose that day. Miriam had cleaned him up with witch hazel. That was the last time they had really spoken. Before he left for the English world, now he was back, a widower, a father. The storm outside seemed to match the one inside her. The wind rattled the window panes violently. Suddenly there was a frantic pounding at the door. It was not a polite knock. It was a desperate plea. Miriam opened the door to a wall of rain. A man stood there, soaked to the bone. He held a bundle wrapped in a thick quilt. It was Samuel, but he looked older, harder. His beard was thick, his eyes wild with panic. "Miriam," he gasped, water dripping from his hat. "Please, you have to help me." Miriam didn't hesitate. She stepped back. "Come in, Samuel, quickly out of the cold." He stumbled into the kitchen, shivering violently. Mom stood up, her knitting falling to the floor. "Samuel Fisher? What is wrong?" "It's Sarah," he choked out, peeling back the quilt. A small girl, maybe 4 years old, lay there. Her face was flushed bright red, her breathing shallow. "She has the fever," Samuel said, his voice cracking. "The doctor gave her medicine, but she throws it up. She is burning up, Miriam. I don't know what to do." Miriam looked at the child. She looked fragile. Miriam placed her hand on the girl's forehead. It was hot, dangerously hot, like a coal. "Bring her to the fire," Miriam commanded softly. She went into healer mode, forgetting her shyness. "Mom, get the cool water and the vinegar cloths." Samuel lay her on the bench. "Gently now." Miriam rushed to her pantry, scanning the jars. She needed willow bark for the fever. She needed elderflower to help her sweat it out. She grabbed a small blue jar of salve. It smelled of mint and eucalyptus. "What are you doing?" Samuel asked, hovering close. He looked terrified, helpless in his strength. "I'm going to break the fever," Miriam said, calm. "Trust me, Samuel. Or take her to the hospital. The roads are washed out," he whispered. "I trust you." For the next 4 hours, the kitchen was a battleground. Miriam worked with a quiet, intense focus. She sponged the child's burning skin. She forced drops of herbal tea between her lips. She prayed in German, low and rhythmic. Samuel sat in the corner, head in his hands. He looked like a man waiting for a sentence. Every time the child whimpered, he flinched. Miriam saw the love in his eyes. It was a fierce, desperate, fatherly love. Around 3 a.m., the storm outside broke. The wind died down to a gentle breeze, and in the kitchen, a miracle happened. Little Sarah took a deep, shuddering breath. Her skin, once dry and hot, became damp. The fever, Miriam whispered, touching her cheek. It is breaking. She is sweating. Samuel rushed over, falling to his knees. He buried his face in the quilt, sobbing. Miriam watched him, feeling a strange ache in her chest. He looked up at her, tears in his eyes. "You saved her," he whispered. "Miriam, God saved her." Miriam corrected him gently. "I just used the weeds you used to make fun of." Samuel managed a weak, tired smile. "I was a fool then," he said softly. "I see that now. You have a gift, Miriam." Their eyes locked for a moment too long. It was a dangerous moment. A silent admission. Miriam turned away, her heart hammering. News travels fast in a small community. By Sunday church service, everyone knew. Samuel Fisher had gone to Miriam Yoder at night, and Miriam had cured the girl with her potions. Deacon Levi was not pleased. Deacon Levi was a stern man, set in his ways. He believed medicine belonged to doctors. He believed herbs were close to pow magic. Wow, magic. He stopped Miriam outside the church barn. "Miriam Yoder," he said, his voice like gravel. "We hear you are playing doctor again." Miriam adjusted her bonnet, looking down. "I only helped a sick child, Deacon." "Pride." Levi spat the word out. "It is pride to think you know better than doctors." "And you, Samuel," Levi turned to the man behind her. Samuel was holding Sarah's hand. The girl looked healthy. "You bring your worldly troubles to this woman? Should have prayed, not sought potions." Samuel stepped forward, his jaw tight. "I did pray, Levi," Samuel said firmly. "I prayed for help. God sent me to Miriam." The crowd gasped. Ku did not talk back to a deacon. Miriam felt the heat rise in her cheeks. Samuel was defending her, just like when they were kids. "Watch your tongue, Fisher," Levi warned. "You are already on probation for your time away. Do not give us a reason to shun you." The threat hung heavy in the crisp autumn air, shunning the ultimate punishment. Complete isolation. That evening, Samuel came to Miriam's garden. He stood by the fence, looking at the dried corn. Miriam walked out to meet him. "She shouldn't have spoken up," she said. "He is looking for a reason to hurt you." "I spoke the truth," Samuel said simply. "Sarah is alive because of you. I won't hide that." He looked at Miriam, really looked at her. "I miss this place," he confessed. "I miss the quiet. I even miss the rules. But mostly," he took a step closer to the fence, "I think I missed you, Miriam." Miriam gripped the wooden fence post. "Samuel, please. I am an old maid. You are a widower. We are not the same people we were." "No," Samuel agreed. "We are better. I was lost, Miriam. For a long time, when my wife died, I was angry at God. But seeing you save Sarah, ... it brought me back. You are the light in my darkness." Miriam felt tears prick her eyes. She wanted to reach out and touch his hand. But the rules were clear. They were not courting. They were not related. They could not touch. Not yet. "Deacon Levi will be watching us," she whispered. "Let him watch," Samuel said, his voice low. "I am done running. I am home." But the trouble was only just beginning. Because the winter was coming, and sickness with it. A month later, a flu swept through the district. Many families were struck down. The doctor in town was overwhelmed. Despite Deacon Levi's warnings, people came to Miriam. Buggy after buggy arrived at her lane. She worked day and night making elderberry syrup. She mixed garlic and honey for coughs. Samuel came every day to chop wood for her fire. He carried water. He delivered the medicines. They worked as a team, silent and efficient. One Tuesday, Deacon Levi fell ill. His wife, a timid woman, came to Miriam in secret. "He refuses to see you," she wept, "but he cannot breathe. His chest is heavy. Please, Miriam, give me something for him." Miriam packed a basket. She put in her strongest mustard plaster. She put in a jar of her fire cider. "Take this," she told the woman. "Do not tell him it is from me. Just use it." 2 days later, the deacon recovered, but he found the jar. He recognized the smell. He was furious. His pride was wounded. Called a members' meeting for the following Sunday. The topic was sorcery and disobedience. Miriam sat on the hard wooden bench in church. She felt the eyes of the community on her. She felt small. She felt alone. Deacon Levi stood up to preach. He spoke of the dangers of strange fire. He spoke of women who stepped out of their place. He did not name her, but everyone knew. "We must purge the evil from among us," he thundered. "Those who practice these things must confess, or they must be separated from the believers." Miriam trembled. Was this it? Would she be banned? Cut off from her mother? Cut off from the church? Suddenly a boot scraped on the floor. Samuel stood up. In the middle of the sermon, Samuel stood. It was unheard of. A disruption of the holy service. "Deacon," Samuel said, his voice shaking but loud, "is healing a sin? Is kindness a sin?" "Sit down, Samuel," Levi commanded. "No," Samuel said. "I will not sit. You're alive today because of that woman. Your wife told me. She used Miriam's medicine." A murmur rippled through the congregation. Levi's face turned purple with rage and shame. "Is this true?" the bishop asked, standing up slowly. The bishop was a kind man, unlike Levi. He looked at the deacon. Levi looked down, unable to lie in church. I did not know," Levi stammered. "But you know now," Samuel pressed on. "Miriam serves this community with love. If that is a sin, then shun me too, because I stand with her." Samuel walked out of the men's side. He walked across the aisle. He stood next to the bench where Miriam sat. He stood in the gap between her and the accusers. Miriam looked up at him. He was her shield. He was her rock. The silence in the church lasted a long time. The bishop looked at Levi, then at Samuel. Then the bishop smiled, a small, weary smile. "Sit down, Samuel," the bishop said gently. "There will be no shunning today. It seems," the bishop continued, looking at Levi, "that we have forgotten that charity is the greatest virtue. Miriam Yoder, you may continue your work, but let us work with the doctors, not against them. Let us be thankful for healing, wherever it comes from." The service ended. The tension broke. People flooded out, shaking hands. Levi slipped away, humbled and quiet. Miriam stood outside by the buggies. The snow had started to fall, soft and white. Samuel came up to her. He brushed a snowflake from his coat. "You took a great risk," Miriam said. "I told you," Samuel smiled. "I am done running, Miriam. I have spoken to your father." Miriam looked up, surprised. "My father?" "Yes. Before he passed, he and I were friends." "No, I mean," spoke to the bishop. Samuel laughed a nervous, happy sound. "I asked permission to drive you home today." "To drive me home?" Miriam repeated. In the Amish world, a boy driving a girl home, that was the first step of courtship. That was a declaration of intent to marry. "Yes," Samuel said. "If you will have me?" Miriam looked at his buggy. Sarah was sitting in the front seat, waving. She looked at Samuel, the man who came back, the man who defended her, the man who saw her not as a witch, but as a gift. "I have a lot of herbs to dry," Miriam said teasingly. They smell strong. They make a mess. I like the smell, Samuel said. It smells like home. Miriam smiled, a full, radiant smile. Then yes, Samuel, take me home. 1 year later, the kitchen was warm and smelled of baking bread, peppermint. Always peppermint. Miriam stood at the table, kneading dough. She looked out the window. Samuel was in the garden, hoeing the rows. Little Sarah was running between the bean poles. She was laughing, chasing a butterfly. Miriam placed her hand on her stomach. There was a new life growing there, another blessing from Gott. The door opened, and Samuel walked in. He was sweaty, dirty, and tired. He looked at Miriam with so much love it hurt. He walked over and kissed her forehead. "The harvest will be good this year," he said. "Yes," Miriam answered, leaning into him. "The roots are deep, Samuel, and the soil is good." She watched the sunset paint the sky in purple and gold. She was no longer the healer of Hickory Lane. She was Miriam Fisher, wife, mother, believer, and her heart was finally, truly healed.